The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Hello everyone and welcome to Wrestling to the Max's coverage and review of SmackDown Live. I am your host Paul Leazar, with me always, Mr. Harry Broadhurst.
Tonight's episode of SmackDown Live is brought to you by former WWF Tag Team Champions, The Natural Disasters. Stay safe, Sean.
Yeah. Obviously, Sean is your usual host on this show. He's not here. Gary and himself, and I believe Eric, are all getting together to do Football to the Max's big season preview for the NFL season that starts this weekend. So be sure to check that out. Which, of course, you can find over there on W2Mnet.com. And, of course, we are sponsored by Last Word on Pro Wrestling and 411mania.com, who also put us up over there. The good folks over there. We're also on everywhere else podcasts found at Apple, Windows. I think we're on iHeartRadio now, too. Other places. We're everywhere. Much like this episode of SmackDown, honestly, if you ask me.
Yeah, there's a lot to get to and not a lot of time to get to it, so what do you say we get started?
Yeah, let's just dive right on in, buddy. First off, Tom Phillips explains to everybody who's been living under a rock that JBL is no longer on the announce team anymore. He is now Corey Graves. And thankfully, I found this episode of SmackDown at least that much more enjoyable because Corey's around. And then Orton is backstage doing some promo work, talking about Shinsuke Nakamura, who, of course, he has a main event match with tonight to determine the number one contender for the WWE World Heavyweight Title at No Mercy. And then we finally get into the show proper. James Ellsworth and Carmella are in the ring, and they're about to cut into whatever they're going to do when Kevin Owens comes down and says he's going to referee Carmella's match, but then Shane McMahon shows up, and Shane is basically here to shut everything that Owens is trying to do now. Owens is not going to be the referee, and this leads Kevin Owens into a huge tirade about Shane's children. He blames Shane for all of his losses, the U.S. title included, and says, you know, over on Raw, Triple H gave me the Universal title, and you guys over here aren't giving me anything. I've earned things, and I continually have to earn everything, and nothing is ever just given to me. What is this? And Shane, once Kevin Owens brings up Shane's kids, that sort of sets him off the edge and leads to a huge brawl that Daniel Bryan has to run down and try to break up with a bunch of security guards. And this won't be the last we hear of this, but what were your thoughts on this segment, Harry?
Well, based on how it plays out a little bit later in the show, my guess is that Shane has some personal matters to attend to, which is going to require him to take some time off of television. I fully expect this to lead to Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens one-on-one, possibly as soon as Hell in a Cell.
That certainly is the rumors, and I wouldn't be shocked if this does get the Hell in a Cell match for the same reason.
At least one of them.
Yeah, at least one of them, for sure. And I could naturally see the WWE World Heavyweight Title match getting the cell as well. But I don't know, I enjoyed the promo work here on both sides. I thought Shane and Kevin Owens were both fantastic. Kevin Owens was wonderful. He pretty much took the lead here and got to be himself and really dig into Shane a lot. And that's when Kevin Owens is at his best. And Shane, I thought he played back as well as he has since his return.
Forgive the phraseology here, but as far as antagonistic dick heels go in the WWE, I don't think you're going to find a better one than Kevin Owens.
I think you're exactly right. Exactly right. So Kevin Owens, after the assault by Shane, is helped to the back. Daniel Bryan apologizes, and Kevin Owens launches into this huge tirade about suing Shane and the WWE and everybody in the McMahon family, and he's going to take everything down. And Daniel Bryan's like, whoa, let's try to fix this. And Owens is he's too pissed. So that finally leads us to our first match with Natalya taking on Carmella. In about 6 minutes or so, Natalya ends up winning after James Ellsworth tries to get Carmella to cash in after Natty is pretty much down and out, and Natty ends up taking advantage by rolling Carmella up after she shoos Ellsworth away, basically. And afterwards, Carmella says, or James gets into the ring and starts apologizing, and Carmella basically calls him a charity case, and she doesn't necessarily want to be around him anymore, ruined her business, all this other stuff. She says they're done. I enjoyed the match for what it was worth. I thought both girls looked fine. It just wasn't a ton of heat in there, but, you know, it is sort of what it is right now with Carmella and Natty.
Well, not to mention you have two heels going at it, so you're not going to have a lot of crowd interest at the same time. That being said, I thought the wrestling at the start of the match was actually really well done. I think that Carmella's progressing nicely, and I think having a veteran like Natty to lead her along is going to do nothing but help her development as well, which is one of the reasons I'm perfectly okay with, even at this advanced stage in Natty's career, because she's been in the company now for going on 10 years. Not quite there yet, but getting close. That she should be one of those locker room leaders over on the SmackDown brand to help rally the women's division together and get it back to the peaks that it was at originally back when the brand split first happened. I do feel it necessary to talk about the post-match when we talk about what happened a little bit later on in the show as well, though.
Absolutely. Which we will get to here in a little bit, because I want to get this out of the way. Dolph Ziggler is back and says no one appreciates him at all, and says, you don't really want me, you just want some dumb gimmick, and then starts parading out in a bunch of different gimmicks. John Cena's, Randy Savage, he does Naomi as well, and then runs down the fans some more before leaving. This was a waste of time, if you ask me. I don't have any interest at all in this.
Miss Elizabeth was cute.
She was cute, that's true. Maybe the best thing about the segment.
I get what the point here is, but at the same time, if you're going to have Dolph calling out people about them not caring about what he does in the ring, even though he's better than everyone at it, they need to actually put him in the ring to showcase his in-ring talents here. Doing these kind of segments where you're trying to focus on his personality on a show where, let's be honest, the bulk majority of personality is what happens between the ropes for SmackDown due to the fact that they just have limited time to work with. You're not going to get anywhere with Dolph until you actually put him back in the ring and try to have him maybe iron out some of the kinks of the new heel persona. That being said, I did kind of chuckle at the Brappadoo.
Yes.
The Cena thing made me chuckle, especially when he held up the rag with the DZ on it and yelled out, "Buy these! Buy these!"
He knows how to do it. There's not, like you said, most of the gimmickry happens inside the ring, and I'm really struggling to think of somebody who's just over the top gimmicky on SmackDown right now. And there's not really a whole lot of them.
No, that's what I'm saying. A lot of the majority of the SmackDown roster is required to get over inside of the ring once they just have limited time to work with compared to Raw. They don't have the time to put on 2 or 3 10 to 15 minute skits like Monday Night Raw does.
Yeah, and saying, like, I feel like maybe if they wanted to do this, maybe moving Dolph to Raw in a trade or something like that might have been in a better interest in seeing if they can get a fresh face over here on SmackDown or something like that.
I just feel like Ziggler would end up lost in the shuffle on Raw anyway. Truth be told, I think creative doesn't really have anything for him, so he's just trying to make the best out of what he has right now in order to keep himself relevant on television. I mean, at least he's getting screen time again. It's for like 3 months there. He wasn't even getting any screen time.
I agree. I was just saying there's a lot more gimmicks for him to work with if this is the way they want to go with him over on Raw rather than SmackDown. That's all I was trying to say.
And I would understand where you're coming from with that.
That leads us into somebody who does have a very large gimmick, and that's Aiden English, who sings out his intro as usual. Sami Zayn interrupts him, and Aiden English ends up upsetting him after Sami misses a high cross body, and English rolls him up, and that's all she wrote. Are we just spinning wheels with Sami Zayn now?
2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes. if there was one wrestler on the main roster that thinks, God, I wish I was still in NXT, it has to be Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
That's all I need to say.
I mean, you're not wrong. This is really, really upsetting that Sammy's only getting this amount of time, and Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Sami, and it's disappointing and honestly downright spirit breaking to see him so thoroughly misused.
Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do with him. That's really what it feels like. It's another guy like Dolph who they just have no clue what to do with him, so they just put him in these matches. And I felt like they were playing a long game after the Baron Corbin feud because Sami was acting very erratic because of all the beatings he took to his head from Baron, and I thought that was going to lead somewhere, and it hasn't. It's just Sami out here losing now. Deserves so much better. So much better. Backstage, the New Day, meets with Daniel Bryan. The Usos show up and name the stipulation for next week for the tag team title match is going to be a Sin City street fight. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. These two teams are great together. Bryan gets a phone call and says he's got to go down to the ring to deal with some stuff, and there's a lot of yes sirs and whatnot.
Okay, when we get back to we'll get back to Bryan's phone call in a few seconds here because that ties into the Kevin Owens segment from earlier.
It does.
Is it wrong that Pun Happy Me had this thought during the whole New Day thing? New Day Boxers. New Day Boxers.
Probably just you.
I mean, I'm assuming that as well, but the twisted way my mind works sometimes.
That's fair enough.
You just stifled a guffaw. I heard that.
I did.
I audibly made you stifle. I'll take that as a victory.
Daniel Bryan is now making his way down to the ring, looking all sorts of serious, very serious business face, no music or anything like that. Shane comes down to the ring after Bryan calls him out and says, "Look, man, I was in the same situation as you before. The Miz was calling me out last year. He's bringing up all these issues that I was having, and it took every ounce of restraint I had not to headbutt him in the face, and it took you to tell me to take responsibility and think that you're not a wrestler anymore. You are the general manager. You have to do what's best for WWE and the guys in the back and SmackDown and all these other things. And you can't do what you did to Kevin Owens tonight." And then he starts tearing in and saying, look, Owens is this vindictive guy. He's going to keep doing this. Shane has got to smooth things over, and Shane says he will. But Bryan, however, says it's too late for that. Vince McMahon called him earlier, and effective immediately, Shane is indefinitely suspended. Interesting stuff. I mean, you're giving Shane a reason now to want to come in and beat up Kevin Owens, and that's what's probably this is. Whether Shane has stuff he needs to take care of outside of the ring for a while is sort of whatever, I guess. But it definitely does give Shane a lot of ammo.
I was going to say, do you think that this writing off of him as the I forget what the term they use for it is, because the GM is Bryan. What would be the term for Shane?
Shane is the commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, writing him off as commissioner gives him grounds to attack Owens on a talent level.
Yeah.
At least that would be my assumption, and I would imagine we might even see Mr. McMahon, who was announced as appearing a little bit later on in the show, and I apologize for jumping the gun there.
Sorry.
But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mr. McMahon announce the match for Hell in a Cell himself when he's on SmackDown next week in Vegas.
I would not be surprised either, and I would assume that they're maybe writing off Shane just to give the feud time to breathe, because we still have a little while before we get to Hell in a Cell. So, letting it breathe, letting Shane sort of take some time off and let Kevin Owens rub some salt in the wounds before Shane comes back in to do the big assault and all that, which might force Vince and Bryan's hand to make the match or something like that. That's something I could see happening.
Can we actually get Kevin back in the ring sometime soon too, please? Seriously, it's been almost a month since he's wrestled. Let's do something about that, shall we?
I agree with you. Anytime that dude gets in the ring, I'm all eyes. So
I have him on my fantasy wrestling team, and so far he's gotten me exactly squat.
Yeah.
Promos don't score points, Kevin.
They don't. You got to get in that ring and win matches. That's how it works.
Facebook.com, search for Fantasy Wrestling League. Rick Balin puts it together. It's actually a lot of fun. Season starts around September, but join early to get an idea and see if it's for you. All right, carry on. Cheap plug out of the way.
Cheap plug out of the way. Renee Young interviews Jinder Mahal. He's got the Sings with him. He doesn't really care who wins the match tonight because he's beaten both Shinsuke and Randy for the title already. He says he represents Asia better than Nakamura ever could. Greatest champion all time, blah, blah, blah. Mahal then does the whole spiel again in Punjab, and then we cut to Baron Corbin and Ty Dillinger. You got AJ Styles out here on commentary, and I think you have a pretty good match here. Plays well off of everything he had going in last week, and Corbin ends up getting a cheap shot in on Ty, tosses him into the post, and then end of days to finally put Ty away. And this is obviously getting under AJ Styles' skin. He doesn't like Baron Corbin at all. He doesn't like the way he handles his business. So he meets with Ty Dillinger backstage and says, you know what, next week, Ty, I'll give you a shot at the U.S. Championship in my open challenge. It's only open to you. So something to really look forward there for sure, even though I'm sure Baron Corbin's just going to come in and ruin it.
I decree a great amount of shenanigans afoot next week for the U.S. title match. My belief would be that this either leads to a one-on-one match at No Mercy or not No Mercy, at Hell in a Cell, or a triple threat. Mm-hmm. My assumption would be triple threat based on the way that they're having everybody stay involved with each other. But at the same time, I like Ty and all, but couldn't Sammy be in this role?
Sammy could absolutely be in this role just because he does still have all that business with Baron that is still sort of unfinished, but I like Ty in this role too just because he's sort of where Sammy is now, where they brought him up, they let him win a bunch of matches, and then they sort of have nothing for him, and now he's finally getting a chance to be in a bit of a spotlight, and I like Ty Dillinger a lot too, so as much as I would love Sammy in the role too, I like Ty here as well.
I mean, it's not anything against Ty because I enjoy Ty Dillinger, but I think Sammy's a better worker, and I think Sammy's a better promo as well.
I think promo's tough, just because I do think Ty carries himself very well in that department. But yeah, Sami Zayn is to me is the superior worker over Ty, and Ty's great. It's just Sammy's one of those guys who's just so damn talented in between the ropes. Bobby Roode video package, all that great stuff. And then we have Ellsworth and Carmella backstage again. Ellsworth begs for forgiveness, makes fun of himself, and wants another chance. And Carmella agrees, but they're going to do things the way she wants to. So she kisses him and then slaps the bejesus out of him. And Ellsworth sort of looks horrified at first and then has this big smile. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but I have vivid memories of the Basham brothers over on SmackDown.
I was
through my head.
just going to make that joke. Son of a bitch. Literally, the first words out of my mouth were going to be, do you remember Shaniqua?
I do.
I wish I didn't, but I do as well.
You know, the bad stuff always just gets burned into your brain so much brighter than anything that good.
I don't know what's going to happen here, but I somehow don't imagine that Mistress Carmella ends well.
She's not even over yet as herself. I mean, let's not pull the trigger on Mistress Carmella. Can you imagine her in all the Jersey get up and the accent and everything trying to do it?
Capiche? No. I did not understand a word you just said.
Oh, boy.
James Ellsworth, you are a better man than I.
Yeah?
Itch.
Yeah. I mean...
It's going to be... I think the polite way to put this would be something, so that's what I'm going to go with here. It's going to be something.
It sure is going to be something. Sure is.
I believe the words that our friend R.D. Reynolds would use is wrestle crap, but we shall see.
Yeah, we can't make a decision on that till we see it, unfortunately. Sorry?
Speak for yourself.
Speak for yourself. That's fair enough. That leads us to our main event. Randy Orton takes on Shinsuke Nakamura for the number one contendership. About 13 minutes or so, Shinsuke ends up getting the Kinshasa after countering out of an RKO into a backstabber. I really like this match. This was the most motivated I think Randy's probably been all year, and Shinsuke actually looked like he was into this too, and it made for a really great match, and I can't believe I just complimented Randy Orton after this year he's had.
Easily Orton's best match of 2017, although to be fair, not saying much.
Yep.
And a motivated Shinsuke Nakamura, which again, for 2017, once he's been up on the main roster, not saying much as well. The SmackDown matches against Corbin and Ziggler, maybe other than that, not really a whole lot glowing in Shinsuke's entertainment department as far as in-ring work goes. Mm-hmm. Well, the Cena match was really good, too.
That is true. The Cena match was very good.
That being said, to pretty much sum up Wrestling 2017 in a nutshell, Jinder Mahal has pinfall victories over Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Mm-hmm.
Jinder Mahal has pinfall... Oh, wait, we're serious?
Yeah, that's a real thing. It's happened a lot.
I don't want to live in this world no more.
It may not be around much longer. I could definitely see this match being in the Hell in a Cell just because I'm sure people are super over the Sings getting involved. And even though I'm sure they'll still find a way in, it's nice to at least think you have the illusion of protection. See, I don't know that Nakamura works in the Cell. I would honestly think that the SmackDown tag titles would make more sense in the Cell to go straight up Usos and New Day inside of the Cell for the tag belts rather than this particular match. I think that'd be great too. Those two teams definitely deserve it, but it feels like I guess the street fight doesn't necessarily have to be the end of things, but it's been going on a while now.
Well, in fairness, there's not much of a tag division on SmackDown right now either.
That is true. I just figure we might be gearing up for a possible Fashion Police title challenge come Hell in a Cell, but who knows?
If only that was a thing that would happen.
It could happen. Don't take away my dream, Harry. Don't do it.
Well, you won't be here next week to discuss it anyway, so it really doesn't matter.
That is true, but I have a lot of shows to put up with you still today, so...
Which... do you want to do the plugs after we do the rating, then?
Yeah, let's. I was about to say, this is pretty much all of SmackDown. Lots of talking, so unfortunately there's not a whole ton to dig into because they basically spell it out for you. But what are you going to give the rating for this episode of SmackDown, Mr. Harry Broadhurst?
You know what? Despite the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of in-ring action, it still flowed by pretty quickly, and that's something that SmackDown tends to do very well. They tend to make their TV shows go by very quickly. It's their pay-per-views that feel like they last for an eternity.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and give this episode of SmackDown a 6.5. I was entertained. I enjoyed it. I liked the Orton Nakamura main event match. I thought the Baron Corbin Ty Dillinger match was very good. I think that the only thing that this episode of SmackDown was missing was Mike Kanellis' theme song, because frankly that thing has grown on me so much in the last week and a half. It's kind of sad, really. That song is so freaking catchy.
I could make a really bad joke, but I'm not gonna right now. So I'll just give my rating instead. I'm at 6. I enjoyed the opening segment. I thought Ellsworth and Carmella's shenanigans were okay, and the main event was also quite exceptional. Everything else, it went by quickly, so at least there was that, but there's not a whole ton else to really write home about, and the continued misuse of Sami Zayn is just super depressing, and really you were hoping for better once he made his way over to SmackDown, but it was just apparently not meant to be, so we'll just, I guess, have to wait until they decide to play with that toy again, but let's go ahead and plug whatever. Go ahead.
Much though I hate to admit it, I think the two words to describe Sami Zayn right now are status quo.
God, that's depressing.
You're telling me. Sunday nights, usually posted on Monday afternoons-ish. Myself and Patrick Ketza co-host Wrestling Unwrapped. I'd love to tell you what we're reviewing this Sunday. Frankly, Patrick hasn't told me yet, so... about as much as I do right now.
Weren't you guys doing Rise?
We did Rise last Sunday.
Okay.
It should be up in the archives soon-ish. Patrick's working on that, as well as getting our August 1998 reviews up as well. Living Dangerous, not Living Dangerous, wow, that's March. Heatwave, Road Wild, and the Highway to Hell SummerSlam 1998 for the August 1998 pay-per-views, as we take a look back at 1998 pay-per-views in their entirety. We did the same thing back in March as well, which is why Living Dangerously sprung to mind. In addition, myself, Patrick, and Paul are doing the Mae Young Classic reviews. As a matter of fact, we will have the next 2 episodes of those for you a little bit later tonight. Stay tuned for those here on the W2M Network. And as of last Wednesday, and the next episode coming out tomorrow, myself, Stephen and Brandon Biskabing co-host The Kickoff, as we talk all things NFL and college football, including all aboard the lane train this week in Florida Atlantic football. Stephen, you're welcome.
Oh, I can't wait to hear you guys talk about A&M blowing that lead they had. That should be a fun conversation.
We have a category called Studs and Duds. Trust me, it comes up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of SmackDown Live. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Once again, that's Harry Broadhurst. I'm Paul Leazar. You guys have a great evening.
Thanks to 411 and Last Word on Pro Wrestling, too, for having us.
Boom.
Following podcast
We out.
W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.